Okay, so physics final revision, part one. Today we will be talking about measurements and motion. Quickly going through the measurements, okay? Quickly going through the measurements. We need to remember some crucial parts about the measurements, especially the prefixes when we were talking about any units. Um, if we want to talk about the SI units that we use throughout the syllabus. What are the SI units that we use throughout the syllabus? For example, the SI unit for the mass is the kilogram. The SI unit for the time is seconds. صح? The seconds. The SI unit for the length is is the meter, not centimeter, not kilometer, not anything else. So we have a couple of SI units: kilograms, seconds, meters. حلو. For example, for the energy, we can use joules. Like, these are the SI units. So, if I have an equation, this equation is requiring me to find the distance. أو مثلا kinetic energy, half mv squared. M, which is the mass, you must use the mass in kilograms. You cannot use the mass in grams or whatever, milligrams. Okay, if you have any time, for example, power equals energy over time, so the time needs to be in seconds. Whenever you have time, whenever you have mass, whenever you have length, they all have to be in the SI units. What about the prefixes that we use before these SI units? For example, kilo, milli, mega. What are these prefixes? Let me write them down, okay? The prefixes. What are the prefixes that we use? For example, we have the largest prefix that we might be using for this syllabus is the giga. Okay, for example, how can I write it? A gigawatt, GW, gigawatt. This is gigawatt, giga, watt. This means that it's times 10 to the power of 9. Gigawatt times 10 to the power of 9. This is one of the largest prefixes that we will be using. Um, Less than giga would be the mega. Okay, mega, for example, mega joules. Oh, this is mega joules. What does mega mean يا شباب؟ It's times 10 to the power of 6 mega joules. كيلو طبعا. It's more commonly used. For example, kilo, kilometer. Okay, kilometer, which is times 10 to the power of 3. Giga, mega, kilo. Then we have meter or whatever the basic unit. Then going uh يعني if we have something less than the meter, less than centimeter, for example, millimeter, milli, okay, one of the more commonly used, millimeter, which is a small m. Milli is a small m. For example, milliampere, okay. MA, small m, small m is milli. This is milli ampere. Yeah. What is milli? It's times 10 to the negative 3. Times 10 to the negative 3 or divided by 1000. Smaller than the milli. Smaller than the milli هيبقى ايه؟ هيبقى micro. Okay, smaller than the millimeter would be the micro. For example, I could have a microgram مثلا microgram او بلاش microgram, micrometer او microseconds, whatever. Okay, this is a microgram. Oh, microgram. How can I know that? Micro, it's mu. This is this very weird symbol. This is called mu, which is micro times 10 to the negative 6. يعني divide by 1000 and divide by 1000 another time. And probably the least or the smallest prefix that we will be using is the nano. Okay, nano, which is simply n. Nano. For example, nanosecond, ns. This is nano, nanosecond. Okay, times 10 to the negative 9. Times 10 to the negative 9. But we have 6 basic units that we use. Okay, giga, mega, kilo, and then going smaller, milli, micro, and nano. حلو كده. يبقى these are the prefixes, and these are the SI units that we use that we're going to be using throughout our syllabus. حلو ماشي. um, moving on بقى أو if you want to talk about measurements, what are the basic things that we talk about? We said before in measurements, we said we have length, صح? We have الاريا, عندنا الفوليوم, mass, صح? Very quickly يعني, okay, time and density, صح? Time and density, density and في الآخر التايم. طبعا length, area, volume, they were very simple. When we talked about the volume, okay, to find the volume of an irregular shape, how can we find the volume of an irregular shape using a volume of an irregular shape? How can we find the volume of an irregular shape? يلا very quickly. Irregular. كل مرة لازم اكتبها غلط. Okay, irregular shape using a measuring cylinder, صح? Using a measuring cylinder. Using a measuring cylinder. And we can use طبعا برافو عليك, yes, it is a measuring cylinder, and we can find the displacement. It's called the displacement method. What is the displacement method? Basically احنا we find V2 minus V1. V2 is the volume of the water and the stone, صح? V2 is the volume of the water and stone or whatever irregular shape that we have, صح? And V1 is the volume of the water أو liquid alone. But what if we had an irregular shape such as a piece of wood or a polystyrene or whatever you call it, a foam, for example, something that floats on the water? How can I find the volume of that object? If it's floating on the water, how can I find the volume? I must use a sinking metal. Okay, sinking with an S, huh? Sinking with an S. It's not thinking, huh? Sinking with an S. طيب. Using the same, yes, bravo عليك. Okay, so if I have a floating object, which means that the density, صح, ما هو what do I mean by floating? Okay, whenever he talks about floating يا شباب, when I have a piece of wood, when I have a piece of foam, something that's floating on the surface of whatever liquid, doesn't have to be water. Okay, could be floating on whatever liquid. يبقى floating ده معناه it means that the density of this object is less than the liquid. Floating means that the density is less than the liquid. طيب, if the density is less than the liquid, what do? We use a sinking metal. We use يا شباب use a sinking metal. طيب, how can we use this sinking metal يا شباب? خلاص احنا we will find V1 and V2 again, but this time, okay, we find a V2 minus V1 again. It's the same process, but for V1, okay, for V1 the volume, the initial volume, what's the initial volume يا جماعة? It is the volume of the water and the sinking metal. It's the volume of the water and the sinking metal. طيب, what about V2? لا, V2 will be the object, whatever بقى, the piece of wood or whatever, the object, the sinking metal and the water. Okay, the water and the sinking metal. يبقى the small difference between finding the volume of an object that can sink or an object that will not sink is that we need to use a sinking metal in order to fully submerge this object below the surface of the water. If the object isn't fully submerged below the surface of the liquid, then then the displaced liquid isn't the volume, or isn't the whole volume. Okay, you need to find the whole volume by fully submerging the water, the object below the surface of the liquid. طيب, ماشي. V2, can you repeat V2 minus V1 again? حاضر. Okay, V2 minus V1, simply I have a small piece of irregular shape. This is an irregular shaped stone. This is an irregularly shaped stone. What do I do with this stone? I use a measuring cylinder, okay, and I add some water. This is a water inside a measuring cylinder. I will find the volume of the water, initial volume of the water. For example, the volume of the water is 30 centimeters cubed. خلاص يبقى this is the initial volume of the liquid or of the water. And then I will add the piece of stone. So what will happen to the volume of the water? What will happen to the level of the water? It will increase. صح؟ مثلا for example, instead of being 30, it will be 45. ليه? Because I added the piece of stone, so the liquid, the volume increased. When the volume increases, how can I find the volume of the stone now? V2 minus V1, which is 45 minus 30, so it's 15 centimeters cubed. Again, the volume of a measuring cylinder, whenever you're finding a volume inside the measuring cylinder, the unit is always in centimeters cubed. Okay, in centimeters cubed. حلو كده. Okay, okay, yeah. This is a basically, very quickly, الvolume. When we talked about the mass, okay, when we talked about الماس تعالوا نبص كده بسرعة. Okay, about الماس. What was the mass أصلا؟ يعني if I wanted to define the mass، وخلي بالكوا there is a difference between mass and weight. Mass was the amount of matter inside an object، صح؟ The amount of matter inside an object. Also, there's another definition for mass. It's a lesser known definition for the mass. What is the mass? Sometimes they say that the mass is the tendency of the object to resist motion. So the tendency of an object to resist motion. So what do I mean by the tendency of an object to resist motion? If the mass of an object increases, then it will resist the motion more. If I have a huge truck, it would be very difficult for me to push this truck or to move the truck. If you have this truck moving, it would be very difficult for you to stop the truck. So it's resisting the change in motion. If it's moving, it doesn't want to stop. And if it's at rest, it doesn't want to move. Okay, an object at rest tends to stay at rest, and an object in motion tends to stay in motion. صح? Newton said that a long time ago. So that's another definition of the mass. It's the tendency of an object to resist motion. It wants to resist motion. And mass is completely different than weight. Mass, what does tendency mean? Okay, tendency is the urge to do something. Okay, it wants to resist motion. It wants to resist motion. So a mass, if you have a huge mass, it wants to resist the motion. It doesn't want to move. It doesn't want to change its motion. If it's at rest, خلاص, it doesn't want to move. It has the tendency to stay at rest. So if it's in motion, if it's already moving, it wants to stay in motion. It doesn't want to stop. Okay, that's the tendency. If you want to understand what does tendency mean. Anyway, mass and weight are different. Mass, the units that we use for mass are what? Are kilograms and grams. طبعا the SI unit for mass is kilograms. We can use grams. صح? Sometimes we can use milligrams. صح? We can use milligrams. بس okay, kilograms, grams, milligrams. طب يا مستر, can he use micrograms? Can I have a unit of micrograms? Okay, we can. يعني I've never seen it before in the O level questions. بس يعني okay, micrograms, micro يعني times 10 to the negative 6. خلاص okay. بس خلي بالكم ان micrograms you will need to change it to kilograms. يعني this is times 10 to the negative 6, and this is times 10 to the power of 3. So actually you'll be needing to change the micrograms to kilograms, which will be quite difficult. بس عادي يعني انت you times 10 to the negative 9 بقى ساعتها. Okay, يعني change it الاول to grams. Okay, change it to grams. مش عارف القلم ماله النهارده. Okay, الاول change it to grams and then change it to kilograms. Okay, بس يعني again micrograms, it's almost impossible to have a question regarding micrograms. But anyway, mass is in kilograms. It's the amount of mass inside, or amount of matter inside an object. What is weight? What is weight? It is a force. What is weight يا شباب? it is a force. And that's why we say that the weight can change. It doesn't change for the sake of changing. It changes when, okay, when does the weight change? It changes when you change the planet. It changes when you change the gravitational force applied on this object. So weight is a force. Weight is a shape, a force applied on an object. It's a force on an object. On an object. Due to what? It's a force on an object due to the gravitational acceleration. Due to a gravitational gravitational acceleration. طيب يبقى weight is a force on an object due to what? Due to the gravitational acceleration applied on this object. يبقى on Earth you would have a weight. On the moon you'll have a different weight. On Mars a completely different weight. So whenever you change the planet, whenever you change the gravitational force, the weight will differ. صح, the weight will differ. But طيب you're saying, okay, someone's saying mass never changes but weight changes due to gravity. ماشي, this is quite kind of right. But I can't say that mass never changes. ليه؟ دلوقتي I have this cup of coffee. صح? This hot cup of coffee. And what's happening to the water inside the cup? It's evaporating دلوقتي, صح? Now the water is evaporating. So after some time, what will happen to the mass of the water? It will decrease. You can't say that the mass will never change. صح؟ You can't say that the mass will never change. But the mass of this water دلوقتي, it will change. It will decrease. ليه؟ علشان there is water evaporating from the surface of this cup. So eventually the mass will decrease and therefore the weight will decrease. صح? The weight and the mass will decrease from this evaporating cup of coffee. صح? طيب acceleration not potential. لا, gravitational acceleration is different from gravitation potential energy. Gravitation potential energy we will talk about it later on inshallah. But gravitation potential energy is the energy stored inside an object. دلوقتي the weight is a force applied on an object due to what? Due to the gravitational acceleration. Due to the gravitational pull. You can say due to the gravitational pull of an object, of a planet. Okay, if you want to, instead of writing the gravitational acceleration, if you want to write down due to the gravitational pull of a planet, that would be correct. But it's not due to the gravitational potential energy. لا. Okay. Okay. يلا بينا. طبعا the unit of the weight is newtons because it's a force. Unit of the weight is newtons because it's a force. طيب يا مستر, how can we calculate the weight? Weight equals mg. صح? Weight equals mg. طبعا we can write down a very simple triangle. بقول لكم في حاجة غلط. Okay, we can write down a very simple triangle. اهو. Weight mg, wmg فوق, w M and G. To find the mass, weight over G, and to find the G, for example, if you want to find the G of a different planet. If he's telling you find the gravitational pull or the gravitational acceleration on Mars, I don't know what is the gravitational acceleration on Mars. But G equals what? G equals W over M, weight over the mass. G on Earth, G on Earth is equal to 9.8 meters per second squared. On Earth. طيب يا مستر, we had some questions telling us that the G was 10. Okay, this is the old syllabus. But for the new syllabus, خلاص, the G is 9.8 meters per second. It's a constant. You have to memorize this number. You must memorize the number. 9.8 meters per second squared on Earth. طبعا the mass has to be in kilograms. Okay, the mass has to be in kilograms. سيف.
فمستر لو في الكويستشن هو مدينا جيفن نستعمل الجيفن ولا 9.8؟
ماشي, if it's given, use the given. Okay, if it's given for example on another planet or on Earth, if it's given on Earth that it's 10, خلاص use it as 10. But for the
سؤال
new
كمان.
questions inshallah it will be 9.8 on Earth. Okay.
question كمان.
مم.
هو احنا هنبدأ past papers امتى؟
soon ان شاء الله soon. اوكي ماشي. weight equals mg. خلاص يبقى this is the weight. We found the weight, we found the mass. خلاص these are very simple quantities that we can measure. The next quantity أو the next physical quantity, the most important physical quantity أصلا in this topic is what is the density. Is the density. طيب define density. Density is the mass per unit mass per unit volume. Per unit volume. What is the mass per unit volume? يعني basically we need to find density. هيقول لي density rho. طب يا مستر what's rho? P pressure. لا, it's not pressure. Rho is density. It's just another symbol for the density. Density equals mass over volume. طب يا مستر أنا I don't want to write it as rho. Can I write it down as D? ماشي. D equals M over V. I don't really care الصراحة. Okay. يلا D equals M over V. If we draw another triangle, يلا الدنسيتي. اوكي يلا هنا الدنسيتي والماس والفوليوم. طبعا we can find the mass equals density times volume, او we can find the volume equals mass over density. اوكي شباب بصوا هنا density equals هنا mass equals density times volume صح. And in this equation mass equals weight over g. Okay, please don't mix them up. Please do not mix up these equations. And you need to find out what are the givens in the question. If the givens are the weight and the g, then خلاص you can find mass equals weight of g. If the givens are the density and the volume, خلاص I will find density يعني mass equals density times volume. But don't mix them up, please. Okay, please do not do that. Density is the mass per unit volume. خلاص what is the unit of the density? خلاص it's a very commonly used unit. Grams per centimeter cubed or kilograms per meter cubed. To be able to use these units, okay, to be able to use these units, the other units, أو مثلا if we need to find the density, أو if I need to find the mass, أو if you need to find the volume, whatever, the units need to be alike. يعني if the density, for example, was 5 grams per centimeter cubed. مثلا, this is the density of some object, 5 grams per centimeter cubed. And the volume, okay, and the volume was 3 meters cubed. The volume was 3 meters cubed. You cannot find the mass by just saying, والله, the mass will be equal to the density times the volume and 5 times 3 وخلاص. لا, that's completely wrong. Why is it wrong? Because this density is grams per centimeter cubed and this volume is 3 meters cubed. So you need to change, you need to convert. It would be easier, it would be much easier if you just convert the volume to centimeters cubed. And it would be easier if you convert the volume into centimeters cubed. يبقى you cannot do it this way. How can I convert? Let's write down the conversions very quickly. احنا we had meter cubed صح? We had centimeter cubed and we might have millimeter cubed. Okay, how can I convert these numbers? Actually, you can have kilometer cubed. You might have kilometer cubed. This, but it could be used maybe in the space physics, okay, in unit 6. Millimeter cubed, centimeter cubed, meter cubed, kilometer cubed. How can I convert between these units? Okay. طب يا مستر احنا let me think. دلوقتي if I want to move from, or if I want to convert from kilometer to meter, okay, if I want to convert from kilometer to meter, it should be multiplied by 1000. ماشي. بس kilometer cubed and meter cubed, so I'm multiplying by 1000 cubed. If you need to convert from meter cubed to centimeter cubed, it should be 100. But this time 100 cubed. From centimeter cubed to millimeter cubed times 10. But times 10 cubed. Moving backwards. Division. صح? We'll divide by 10 cubed. Divided by 100 cubed. And هنا divided by 1000 cubed. But for this question, for example, we had 3 meters cubed. I need to convert it to centimeters cubed. What should I do? I should multiply by 100 cubed. You should multiply by 100 cubed times 1 million, which is يعني 3 million centimeters cubed. So 5 times 3 million, the mass will be 15 million grams. 15 million grams, which is 15,000 kilograms, if you'd like to convert it. Whatever, I don't really care about numbers دلوقتي, بس I just need you to think more about the conversions. You must have the same units while multiplying or while using any equations. خلاص, you have to have the same you have to have the same units. طيب, density. وبعدين احنا we said it before but I'll say it again. The whole point of density is that if you have an object that floats on a liquid, that means that this object has a density which is less than the liquid. طب if I have an object that sinks in this liquid, يبقى this object has a density which is greater than this liquid. طب I have a question. If I had a coin, okay, this is a metal coin. This is a metal coin. If I put this metal coin in the water alone, it will sink. صح? It sinks in water. صح? ماشي. And I have another object. I have مثلا a piece of wood. Okay? This is a huge piece of wood, for example. Okay? This is a piece of wood. Okay? Of wood. What would the wood do in the water? It would float. صح؟ It floats in water. طيب جميل صح يعني خلاص I know because the metal has a density which is greater than the water, the wood has a density which is less than the water. But what happens if I put the metal coin on the piece of wood? If I put the metal coin on the piece of wood, okay, the wood plus the coin, what happens? They float. They float in the water. The question is, why do they float? Why do they float دلوقتي? You cannot say that for example, the weight has decreased. You cannot say that the mass has decreased. You cannot say that the weight والله is less than the water. You cannot say that the weight, the density of the wood is less. Well, this is not wood alone, صح? Now this is not wood alone. What is this? This is wood, the piece of wood and the coin. The piece of wood and the coin. For this question, for this very specific question, you must say that the average density, actually this is the whole point, you need to say one word, that the average density of them both, the average density of the wood and the coin together is less. The average density is less than water. خلاص, هي على فكرة it's worth the mark. The mark is you need to say that the average density is less than water. Average density of both of them, okay? Not just خليني اكتبها كده. Okay, the average density of الwood and الcoin او الميتال او whatever is less than water. بس كده خلاص, سهل كده. طيب, last but not least طبعا the time. Let's quickly revise through the time. Okay, احنا time, why why was it very important for me to talk about time? Because we had that experiment talking about the pendulum, صح? I had that experiment talking about the pendulum, and the pendulum is moving from point A to point B. So pendulum keeps on swinging from point A to point B, and I need to find the period of this pendulum. How can I find the period of the pendulum? It's the time taken to complete one complete oscillation. Type. It's the time taken to complete one complete oscillation. Type. How can I find the period? I cannot just measure the time for one oscillation. So I cannot measure the time for one oscillation. What do I do? I leave the pendulum to swing for, let's say, 10 oscillations, for 20 oscillations. When you're done with these 20 oscillations, what do? You take the total time and you divide by the number of oscillations to find the period. خلاص, يلا احنا we need to calculate it. To find the period, what do? You take the total time, the total time divided by the number, okay, the number of oscillations. Okay, oscillations. Number of oscillations يعني number of waves. احنا later on in unit 3 we will be talking about the waves again, and again I will say that the period is the total time divided by the number of oscillations. Okay, but for this question, for the pendulum, how can I find the period? You cannot just find the period or the time for one oscillation بس لا, you need to find several oscillations, preferably if we say 10 or 20 oscillations. Okay, not 100. You cannot leave it for 100 oscillations. ليه؟ عشان eventually it will stop أو you will lose count. يعني if you leave it for 100 oscillations you might either lose count or it will stop. Okay, ماشي. Let's open up paper 4. Let's solve a couple of questions in measurements and then go back to motion. Okay. Um, okay, let's solve a couple of questions in paper 4 and then go back to motion. Yeah. Let's open up paper 4 part 1 طبعا. Part 1 and open up and open up measurements. I'll start solving from the back. Okay, from the last question. Okay, يعني page 20. Okay, I will start solving from page 20. يلا بينا. يلا بينا. Okay, page 20. Did you open up your classified questions? يلا بينا. احنا we solve يعني we won't solve that much. I won't solve that much. بس يعني ايه 2-3 questions on measurements and then I'll move to motion. I need to solve a lot more questions on the motion. ايوه مؤمن قول لي.
لا عاوز أجاوب.
عايز تجاوب. Okay. You can solve. يلا go on. In English please if you can.
Oil of density 0.80 grams per centimeter cubed is poured gently on the surface of water of density 1 gram per centimeter cube. The oil and the water do not mix. Describe and explain the final position of oil relative to the water.
Okay. The final position of the oil relative to the water.
Description: oil stays on the surface.
Okay.
Explanation: oil has lower density than water.
Okay, that's a very nice answer. Yes, definitely, definitely, the oil will be above the water. Definitely, the oil will be floating above the water. Why does the oil float above the water? Oh, oil. Let me write it down. Okay, oil is above the water. طيب, why is the oil above the water? Definitely because the density, it has to do with the density. The density of oil is less. لازم كده أقول, you have to say that it's less than the density of than the density of water. طيب قول لي يا مهند.
ماشي. An irregularly shaped solid object has a density of 2.7 gram per centimeter cube. Describe a method to measure the volume of an irregularly shaped solid object. ماشي. Get a measuring cylinder, fill it with known volume of water, we'll call it V1.
Okay.
Then add the irregularly shaped solid, call it V2, and then subtract.
صح. يبقى you will add some water in the measuring cylinder, V1, put the object V2 and subtract. صح كده. Okay. Add water. Let me zoom in شوية. Add water to the measuring cylinder. Okay, and take the volume دلوقتي V1 and then add the object and measure. Okay, and measure volume 2 أو measure new volume ونسميها ايه V2. الobject, the volume of the object, the volume of the object is equals V2 minus V1. Okay. Okay, يلا بينا. The volume of the object is 83 centimeters cubed. Calculate the mass of the object. يلا سهلة دي. How can I find the mass? قول لي يا هون. mass equals قول.
density times volume.
density times volume. density times volume. طبعا ال density is 2.7 and the volume is 83 وهنا it's centimeters cubed and centimeters cubed, so you do not need to convert anything. ها you do not need to do any conversions. خلاص 2.7 times 83 هيبقى let me calculate كده.
224.1
اوكي صح، برافو عليك. طيب
grams.
grams.
kilograms.
Yes, please يا شباب, please do not forget the units. Please do not forget the units. You lose a lot of marks. Okay, you lose a lot of marks by just simply forgetting these units. يعني whenever you have an equation, calculate مش عارف ايه, do not, please do not forget the unit. Yes, 3 significant figures أو 2 significant figures. Usually, okay, we write down either 3 or 2 significant figures. So هنا 224 3 significant figures. طب يا مستر, can I write it down as 220 grams? Okay, it would be acceptable because that is 2 significant figures. Okay, طيب, moving on to the question before it. يلا, page 19. A pendulum swings with a time period of approximately 1 second. Describe how to use a stopwatch to determine the time period of the pendulum. How can I use a stopwatch to find the time period of this pendulum? طبعا I cannot find the period of only one cycle alone. You cannot do that. I need to find and we just said it. We need to find the period of several oscillations. صح؟ يعني for example, let the pendulum swing for 10 cycles. Let the pendulum swing for 10 cycles and then divide. يلا, let's write it down. يلا, let the pendulum swing for 10 cycles and calculate the time. The time taken, total time taken, then divide, calculate the total time taken using the stopwatch, then divide the total time by the number of oscillations. Okay, by the number of oscillations of cycles. Okay, طبعا you can use 20 cycles, you can use 30 cycles. Okay, طبعا do not use too much. Okay, don't say 80 cycles, don't say 100 cycles. Okay, count 20 oscillations. ماشي, okay, حلو. هنا we have a couple of devices. بصوا يا شباب, thermocouple has been removed from the syllabus. Okay, thermocouple has been removed from the syllabus. So whenever, if you want to solve past papers or whatever, if you have any questions regarding the thermocouple, خلاص, it's been removed. It has been removed. Also, the micrometer screw gauge has been removed, which is the answer to the last one. يعني, to be honest, it is the answer to the last, اللي هي الميكروميتر. طيب يعني we shouldn't write it down or we shouldn't solve it. لا, it's been removed. It has been removed. You're not required to know it. You're not required to know anything about the micrometer screw gauge or how we can use it. خلاص, يبقى these two devices have been removed. The volume of the water in the glass. طبعا to find the volume of the water we need to use the measuring cylinder. صح? We need to use the measuring cylinder. And the width of a swimming pool. The width of a swimming pool using ايه بقى؟ طب يا مستر, انت you said before that we cannot use the measuring rule, the meter ruler, okay, if we have distances greater than 1 meter, which is correct. Okay, that's not wrong. That is correct. You cannot use the meter ruler. But for the given devices, يعني these are the devices we have. خلاص يعني, and I don't have any other devices. Okay, خلاص, I will use the meter ruler. But to be more accurate, to do it with better accuracy, with more accuracy, you should use you should use the measuring tape. يعني أصلا we should use for this question the measuring tape. يبقى any distances greater than 1 meter, أي distance greater than 1 meter, we should use we should use the measuring tape. اوكي ايه سؤالك؟
مش ينفع حضرتك تقول معانا كلمة oscillation في الكويشن
oscillation
اللي فوق؟
oscillation is a cycle بس cycles or waves or whatever. Oscillations are the cycles or the waves that we have. ماشي؟ طيب يلا بينا. Moving on to the previous question. I guess we solved this question before, but let's solve it again. Okay, I guess we solved it before, but we will solve it again. بيقول لي إيه the depth of the water in the tank is 2 meters. Calculate the volume of the water in the tank. We need to find the volume of the water in the tank. طيب, how can we find the volume? If I have a regular object, how can I find the volume of the regular object? How can you find the volume? We say that it's the area of the base, times the height, أو times the depth. And you can say it's the area of the base times the depth. For example, if I have this cup, صح? I will find the area of the base times the height of this cup. ماشي. The question, can you find the area of this base? Can you find the area of this swimming pool? Yes, I can. You can divide it into two objects. You can divide it into two shapes. These two shapes. It would be easier if you divide it into these two shapes. This is the first shape. اللي هو ايه? 1.6 times 1.1. This is 1.6 times 1.1. يلا تعالوا let's calculate it using a calculator. 1.6 times 1.1 is 1.76. 1.76 meters squared. صح؟ طيب can I find the area of the second shape? The second shape. Yes, you can. 3.2 times 1. طبعا you need a calculator to find 3.2 times 1 صح? Which is 3.2 meters squared. Just add them up. صح? If we add them up هيبقى كام؟ 4.96 meters squared. So you have the area. Now you have the total area of the swimming pool. To find the total volume, what should you do? يلا simply volume equals the area times the height. صح? area times the height أو area times the depth, which is by 4.96 times 2. صح كده؟ 4.96 times 2 9.92 meters cubed. صح؟ 9.92 meters cubed. طيب جميل. حلو أوي. I need to find the density. Sorry, I need to find the mass. يلا mass equals ايه بقى سهلة دي. Mass equals density times volume. You have the density, which is 1.1 times 10 to the power of 3 times the volume, which is 9.92. يلا times 1.1 هيطلع كام؟ 10,912 kilograms. بس that's it. خلاص that's it. It's a very simple question. Any questions لحد دلوقتي؟ أي questions لحد دلوقتي يا شباب؟ Again, this is the same question. ما خلاص بقى ما
الانسر اللي تحت طلعت لي 10,890.
890 عشان you used 9.9 not 9.92 صح؟ بس that's the يعني it could differ بس for the final answer هنا the final answer أنا my mass is 10,912. طب is this the best answer to write؟ لا, it's أصلا it's not the best answer to write. A more accurate answer would be
يعني أنا كنت غلط.
لا your answer is right. Your answer is right. بس a more professional answer would be ايه 11,000 kilograms. ايه ده هو يعني your answer was أو my answer was 10,912. Your answer was 10,800 and something صح؟ طب both of these answers you could write them down as 11,000 kilograms. ليه؟ علشان to make life easier. Two significant figures. طب يا مستر أنا I want to write it down as 1.1 times 10 to the power of 4 kilograms. Would that be correct? Yes, it would be correct برضه. Okay, it would be correct. Okay. ما هو 10,900 10,800 يعني اوكي هما كده كده you can write them down as 1.1 times 10 to the power of 4 kilograms. اوكي easy. اي مشكلة؟ طيب let's go back بقى. أنا I don't think that we had any more difficult questions هنا. Let's solve this question together. Let's solve this question together. Page 15. Okay, let's solve this question. هنا the question is saying here, page 15. The question is that we have a cylinder with some liquid inside it. You have a cylinder with some liquid, and you have some data about the cylinder. You have the radius, you have the weight of the empty cylinder. So the weight of the empty cylinder. You have the radius, you have the depth of the liquid. صح؟ يعني you have the depth of the liquid. هنا كام؟ 12 centimeters. 12 centimeters. You have the radius of the cylinder. The radius of the cylinder is 3 centimeters. صح؟ 3.5. 3.5 centimeters. You have the depth and you have the density of the liquid, which is 900 kilograms per meter cube. طيب واحدة واحدة. Okay. It's not the easiest question, but this question يعني what makes it difficult for this question is the numbers. But the numbers are a bit small. Okay, the numbers are a bit small. يعني ايه؟ دلوقتي the radius is 3.5 centimeters, the depth is 12 centimeters, with the density is 900 kilograms per meter cubed. We have different units. You have different units. You need to use a single unit for all of your answers. You must use a single unit for all of your answers. It would be better if you use the SI units. يعني the radius, instead of being 3.5 centimeters, can you change the radius to meters? And I can. 3.5 divided by 100, which is 0.035. So, yeah, but the actual radius is what? 0.035 meters. ماشي حاضر. Okay, the depth of the liquid is 12 centimeters. Can you change the depth? Can you change the height? Divided by 100 هيبقى 0.12 meters. خلاص يبقى دلوقتي we have SI units. Now I can start talking. Can I find the volume? Can you find the volume? I can find the volume. Can you find the volume? Yes, you can find the volume. How can you find the volume? Volume of a measuring cylinder, volume of a cylinder. This is a very old equation that we haven't used for a very long time. Type, what is it? Volume equals a area of the base times the height. طب area of this base. What is this base يا جماعة? This is a circle. This is a circle. مش 2 pi r. مش it's not 2 pi r. والله العظيم it's not 2 pi r. Pi r squared. شكرا. It's pi r squared times the height. Area of the base, which is a circle, times the height. You have pi r squared times the height. خلاص, the numbers are all in SI units, we can just multiply them using a calculator. ايه ده؟ طب يا مستر it will be a very small number. عادي, it's okay. It is okay. يلا, using a calculator, pi times 0.035 squared times the height 0.12. يلا, let's يعني تعالوا نحسبها calculator. Pi
4.6 times 10 to the power negative 4.
4.6 times 10 to the negative 4. صح؟ meters cubed. 4.6 times 10 to the negative 4 meters cubed. طب دلوقتي I have a volume and I have the density of the liquid. Can I find the mass of the liquid? I can find the mass of the liquid. How can you find the mass of the liquid يا شباب؟ جميل. How can you find the mass of the liquid?
Density.
ماشي. Okay, density times volume. بالظبط. هنقول density times the volume, which is 900 times 4.6 times 10 to the negative 4, which will be around 0.2 0.4 kilograms صح؟ if I'm not wrong it's around 0.4 kilograms. طيب let's calculate it كده بسرعة.
0.4.
تمام حلو 0.4 kilograms. الله يا مستر احنا I have the final answer دلوقتي it's 0.4 kilograms. خلاص that's the final answer. لا what is this mass؟ خلي بالكم ايه هو الماس ده؟ this is the mass of the liquid inside. This is the mass of the liquid. ما هو I have the density of the liquid, I have the volume of the liquid. This is the mass of ايه؟ الماس of a liquid بس. This is the mass of the liquid بس. طيب can I find the total mass؟ ما هو he wants me to find the reading on the scale. He wants you to find the reading on the scale. يلا يبقى the total mass will be 0.4 plus 2.5 صح؟ can you add plus 2.5 على طول؟ لا. ما this is weight. You need to first convert the weight into mass. You need to first convert the weight into mass. يبقى how can I convert the weight into mass? You need to convert the weight into mass by dividing by ما هو mass equals weight over G يعني 2.5 over 9.8 which would be around 0.25 صح؟ This is the mass of the empty cylinder. Mass of the empty cylinder is 0.25 kilograms. يبقى basically what do you do? 0.4 plus 0.25 which is around 0.65 kilograms. Okay? which is around 0.65 kilograms. خلاص يبقى this is the answer. 4 marks. It is worth 4 marks. يعني 4 marks مستاهلين فعلا. It does deserve, this question does deserve 4 marks. و 4 marks is a lot عشان نبقى يعني ايه فاهمين. 4 marks is a lot. It's 5% of your final paper 4. It's a lot. ف 5% this is worth 5% of your final paper. احنا we wrote down a lot of steps. احنا we did so much work. يبقى you do deserve a 4 marks ان شاء الله. Okay. طيب يلا بينا. Let's move on to motion. خلاص. If you have any questions later on, you can ask me by the end of the session. If you have any questions related to the measurements. Let's move on to motion دلوقتي. يلا. Let's revise quickly كده. عايزين revise quickly الموشن. Okay, we had speed, we had velocity, we had distance, time, acceleration. Well, يعني it was a huge lesson يعني الصراحة. Okay. Motion. Speed, velocity, acceleration, distance. يبقى we had 2 different quantities. We needed to find the difference between a scalar with an A, not with an E, between a scalar quantity and a vector quantity. We need to find the difference between a scalar quantity and a vector quantity. What was the difference between them? Basically, a scalar was a quantity that had a magnitude only. صح؟ بس a vector had a magnitude, okay, a magnitude and a direction. صح؟ magnitude and direction. طيب يا مستر what does magnitude mean؟ انت بتقعد تقول magnitude. What does magnitude mean? Magnitude basically means it's a number, a value. A scalar, it's a value. The temperature is a scalar because you have the value of the temperature. 0 degrees Celsius, 5 degrees Celsius, 10. خلاص, this is the value. This is the magnitude of the temperature today. لكن a vector means that it has a magnitude, it has a value and a direction. مثلا I'm moving 10 meters per second north. خلاص, this is the value of the velocity, okay? And the direction, north, south, east, west. خلاص, these are the directions that you need to find. You have a scalar, magnitude only, vector, magnitude, and direction. And we have several quantities, scalars, and we have several other vector quantities. ماشي. Speed equals ايه؟ يلا بسرعة كده. Speed equals distance over time. Speed equals distance over time. It's a scalar quantity. It is a scalar quantity. يلا. We can draw another triangle, very simple triangle, speed ودistance وtime. اوكي يلا بسرعة كده. speed with distance will time. طبعا distance is speed times time and time is distance over speed. صح؟ distance over speed. Usually the distance is in meters and the time is in seconds. The distance could be in kilometers, the time could be in hours. صح؟ speed could be meters per second, it could be kilometers per hour. In some rare cases the speed could be centimeters per second. يعني you have several units. But the two main units that we use for the speed أو the velocity, okay, are meters per second أو kilometers per hour. mainly يعني meters per second. ماشي خلاص ده speed equals distance over time. خلاص it's the rate of change of distance. The rate of change of distance. طب what is acceleration? What is a acceleration? خلي بالكوا acceleration is a vector quantity. Acceleration is a vector quantity. What is acceleration? يلا define acceleration. It's a very commonly used question. Okay. Acceleration. Acceleration. Wallahi, it is the rate of change of velocity. Bravo. It has to be velocity. It has to be velocity. Rate of change of velocity. طيب بص عشان it's another common mistake. Whenever you have rate يا شباب, whenever you have rate, وعلى فكرة rate doesn't have to do only with acceleration or with speed or whatever. Whenever you have rate, it means that you need to divide a quantity by time. You need to divide this quantity by by time. So rate of change of velocity means that you need to divide the change of velocity by the time. Divide the change of velocity by time. هقول لك دلوقتي difference between الuniform and constant والحاجات دي. Acceleration is the rate of change of velocity. It's a vector quantity. عشان كده you have to change the velocity, not the speed. Have to change the velocity, not the speed. عشان we care about the direction. Okay, in speed I don't care about the direction. فخلاص it's a scalar quantity. But the acceleration is a vector quantity, so you do care about the direction. ماشي. How can I calculate the acceleration? بص. Acceleration A equals V minus U over T. واحدة واحدة. V minus U over T. What is V, Mr.? It is the final velocity. Finally, velocity. طيب what is U? It is the initial velocity. Okay, final velocity, initial velocity. Obviously the T is the time. صح? T is the time. تعالوا نكتبها كده بالراحة عشان ايه تبين الفرق ما بين ادي V ادي T is the time. Sometimes بصوا sometimes some questions they need to find the final velocity. Some questions they need to find the initial velocity, and some other questions they need to find the time. How can I find the time? How can I find the velocity? How can I find the initial or the final velocity? بص and I know it has to do with some math. في شوية math كده. If you're not يعني that good with math, خلاص, if math is a huge problem for you, خلاص, you can just memorize whatever I'll do دلوقتي. If you need to find the final velocity, if you need to find the initial velocity, or if you need to find the time. The final velocity is more commonly used. يعني for example, he gives you the acceleration, he gives you the time and the initial velocity. أو he says that the initial velocity is at rest, أو the car is at rest, أو the object is at rest. Okay, it accelerates with an acceleration of whatever. Find the final velocity. To find the final velocity v, what will you do? هيبقى a times t plus u. a times t a plus u. خلي بالكم plus ال u. طيب ساعات يعني some lesser known questions you will be required to find the initial velocity. Until you have the final velocity, you have the acceleration, you have the time, but you need to find the initial velocity. Okay, some math كده هنودي ال u, bring back the v ومش عارف ايه. فال u basically will be equal to v minus at. v minus AT. That's if you need to find the initial velocity. طيب, what if you need to find the time? And you have the acceleration, you have the final velocity, you have the initial velocity. What if you need to find the time? How can I find the time يا جماعة? Basically, time equals V minus U over A, over acceleration. Okay, you can take a quick screenshot of this question دلوقتي. Okay, you can take a quick screenshot. يبقى V minus U over T to find the acceleration, V to find the final velocity, A minus AT plus U. U هتبقى V minus AT, T equals V minus U over A. طبعا you have some math, بس يعني I don't care about the math دلوقتي. I don't care about the operations that we will do to find each one for the time being دلوقتي. خلاص ماشي. acceleration. تعالوا بقى let's talk about the different types of accelerations that we have. Okay, let's talk about the different types of accelerations that we have. أو الأول حتى before talking about the different types of accelerations, let's talk about the graphs. Okay, we have two types of graphs. We have حاجة اسمها speed time graph and we have distance time graph. A distance time graph is much easier. Distance time graph is much easier. يلا تعالوا نرسم كده a couple of distance time graphs. Distance time graphs. What are the distance time graphs that we have? We have, I guess, around 4 distance time graphs very quickly. Okay, هنا هرسم ال distance بالmeters and هنا ال time with the seconds. يلا distance time graphs. يلا okay, تعال نرسم الأربعة distance بالmeters وهنا time بالseconds. Okay, another one. يلا distance time اهو هنا distance time. Okay, distance بالmeters وهنا time بالseconds. يلا we have 4 very simple distance time graphs. Distance meters with time بالseconds. طيب أول واحد the first one would be كده. احنا we can draw the first one this way. The second one هنرسمه كده. Third one. Okay, and this is the fourth graph. طيب the first graph, this means that the distance isn't changing. The distance isn't changing. There is no change. خلاص يعني distance is 5 meters. For example, I مثلا looked at my watch مثلا خلاص أنا دلوقتي I did a 1000 steps. Even the number of steps aren't changing. صح؟ The distance is not changing. That means that I'm at rest. I'm not moving. Zero speed. Oh, this is at rest. I'm not moving. مفيش speed. خلاص هو speed is a zero. طب how do I know that the speed is zero from the graph? يعني this is at rest. أو speed equals zero. How do I know that the speed is zero from the graph? Because the slope is zero. هنا ال slope is zero. يعني ايه slope is zero؟ يعني it's a horizontal line. Whenever you have a horizontal line, so the slope is always zero. Slope is ايه؟ zero. If you draw a horizontal line this way, يبقى the slope is zero. يعني the slope in a distance time graph represents the speed. The slope in a distance time graph represents the ايه يا شباب؟ represents the speed. في distance time graph the slope represents ايه؟ represents the speed. So we can find the slope. Yes, I can find the slope. ازاي؟ y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Oh, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Oh, okay. Let's write them down. For example, هنا عندي y2 y1 x2 و x1. To find the slope, which is to find the speed, هنعمل ايه؟ يلا slope equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, which is basically finding the speed. Whenever you find the slope, you will find the speed of this graph. If you have a steeper slope, then it has a larger speed. مثلا, if I draw a graph this way, this has a higher speed. This has a higher speed. It's moving more quickly. صح? If you have a lesser slope, تعال نرسم مثلا as the slope decreases, the speed decreases. So speed decreases. As the slope decreases, the speed decreases. As the slope increases, خلاص the speed increases. ماشي جميل. سهل. What about these two other graphs? What's happening to the slope? What is happening to the slope? In the first graph, the slope is increasing. In the first graph, the slope is increasing. It's becoming more difficult to climb the slope. Oh, if we want back to talk about more mathematical or more physical terms, what's happening? You're covering more distance in a lesser amount of time. You're covering more distance in a lesser. ايه ده ازاي؟ بص كده. Initially انتوا you took مثلا عشان to cover 5 meters you took whatever time صح؟ طب to cover 10 meters لا I took less time. To cover 15 meters much less time صح؟ To cover 20 meters لا even less. ف what's happening? The slope is increasing. هنا هقول له ايه؟ The slope increases. What does the slope increase mean? It means that خلي بالك what does the slope increase mean? It means that the speed is increasing. يبقى ال speed هنا is increasing. يبقى slope increases means that the speed is also increasing. طب what about the other one? What about the other slope? What's happening? لا, the slope is decreasing. He is not خلي بالكم. Okay? In this other one, he's not moving backwards مثلا ولا حاجة. لا, what's happening to the slope? The slope is decreasing. The slope is ايه يا شباب؟ The slope is decreasing. The slope decreases. طب what's happening? طب slope means speed. على طول كده slope means ايه يا شباب؟ Slope means speed. اهو يبقى slope is decreasing يعني speed يعني ايه؟ speed is decreasing. Slope is decreasing يعني speed برضو is decreasing. يلا quickly كده استنوا. يلا quickly take a screenshot علشان to memorize these four graphs. يلا احنا we have four graphs, only four graphs لل distance time graphs. It's either that the slope is zero, so it's at rest. It's either you have a constant slope, a straight line, so you're moving with a constant speed. صح؟ هنا constant speed. I didn't write it down, but let's write it down. هنا this is a constant constant speed. صح؟ عشان هو خلاص straight line. If the slope is increasing, so the speed is increasing. If the slope is decreasing, so the speed is decreasing. خلاص؟ طيب سهل كده. What about the speed time graphs؟ لا ده بقى ايه؟ It's a bit more مش عايز اقول complicated بس we have more graphs. We have more graphs for the speed time graphs. We have a lot more graphs for the speed time graphs. Speed time graphs. Speed time graphs means ايه يا شباب؟ It means that I'm going to write the speed. Okay? أو the velocity. مش لازم تبقى speed. Okay? I can write down the speed or the velocity on the y-axis and the time on the x-axis. طيب حاضر. يلا بينا. Let's write them down. Let's draw the first three easy 3 أو 4 easy graphs. ايه هما؟ نرسم كده ايه؟ 4 easy, very easy graphs. Speed time graph. Okay, يلا these are these will be the speed time graphs that we have. يلا speed time graphs. يلا speed يعني هنا I read v velocity أو I can write s speed whatever. v velocity meters per second صح؟ وهنا time بالseconds. يلا velocity meters per second وهنا time بالsecond. يلا velocity meters per second بسرعة كده time بالsecond. velocity meters per second and time بالsecond. طيب very quickly if I graph يعني لو رسمت مثلا جراف عامل كده and another one let's draw it this way. Okay, and I have another graph كده and another graph this way. I have four graphs, four very simple graphs, four very simple graphs. The initial graph, what's happening? I can check out the speed. هلاقي والله ال speed is constant. يعني speed is constant. هنا مثلا the speed is 10 meters per second. هنا the speed is 10 meters per second. After 1 second the speed is 10. After 2 seconds the speed is 10. So the speed isn't changing. The speed isn't changing at all. The speed is the speed is constant. طيب ماشي. يعني خلاص اقول constant speed. Constant constant speed. طيب. Is it accelerating? Is this object accelerating؟ ما هو اصلا what does acceleration mean? Acceleration is the rate of change of velocity. أو basically that I'm changing the speed أو changing the velocity. طب is the speed changing? No, the speed is not changing, therefore you're not accelerating. There's only one exception to this rule. Only one exception to this rule if you're moving in a circular motion, and we will talk about this later on inshallah. But for this question دلوقتي, is this object, if the object is moving in a straight line on a horizontal surface, if this object is moving in a straight horizontal line خلاص كده ها, is this object accelerating? لا. يبقى I would say that it's moving with a constant speed أو zero acceleration. Okay, constant speed of zero ايه zero acceleration. خلاص it's moving, it's not changing the speed, it's not changing the velocity. جميل. خلاص 10 meters per second طول ما هو ماشي. طب this one is even easier, it's much easier. خلاص يعني هو zero. Zero يعني it's at rest. Zero يعني هنا at rest. ايه ده يا مستر؟ هو why isn't the first one at rest؟ يعني انت هنا انت you said it's at rest صح؟ Why didn't you say that this object is at rest؟ لا, cannot say that it's at rest. ليه؟ Because this is a speed time graph. So what is constant? خلي بالكم. What is constant for this graph? The speed is constant. The speed is constant. يعني I'm moving. يعني the object is moving. It has a speed. The speed is 10 meters per second. The object is moving with a speed of 10 meters per second. So there is a speed. So there is motion. You cannot say that it's at rest. لكن for this object خلاص هو speed is zero. No motion at rest. Can I say that it's accelerating? لا طبعا. You can never say that it's accelerating. طبعا for definitely acceleration هنا is zero. Definitely the acceleration is zero. You can never say that an object at rest is accelerating خالص. ماشي ماشي. طيب these two other graphs, what's happening to the speed? يعني using your eyes, you can see that the speed is changing. You can see that the speed is increasing. يعني for the first one the speed is ايه increasing. طب حلو, the speed, oh look at the speed increases. طيب when the speed is increasing, or the speed increases, is it increasing with a constant rate or not? يعني ايه constant rate؟ يعني is the slope constant or not? Oh yes, the slope is constant. صح, we have a straight line. We have a straight line. طبعا ignore this. Okay, طبعا it is a straight line. يبقى speed is increasing with a constant rate. يبقى I have a constant acceleration. يبقى بقول له كده you have a constant acceleration. يبقى تاني speed is increasing. بص, whenever you have a speed time graph, you have to talk about two things. You have يا شباب بصوا, هو خلاص it's يعني it's a fact. Whenever you have a speed time graph, you have to talk about two things. You have to talk about the speed, what's happening to the speed, and you must talk about the acceleration, what's happening to the acceleration. يبقى خلاص I have a speed time graph. I'll talk about two things. هنتكلم على two things. What? أول حاجة نتكلم على speed أو velocity, what's happening to speed, and you will talk about the acceleration, what is happening to the acceleration. يبقى for this case the speed is increasing with a constant acceleration. طب can you calculate the acceleration? Yes. How can I find the acceleration? Using the slope. صح؟ خلاص this is a constant slope. هقول له هنا this is a constant slope. this is how can I يعني ازاي عرفت ان هو constant slope؟ عشان it's a straight line. طيب how can I find the slope? V minus يلا this is y2 y1 and x2 and x1. خلاص y2 وهنا y1 وهنا x2 and x1 to find the slope. برضو y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Again, please يا شباب, don't just go choosing any two numbers وخلاص. بصوا, you cannot just go choosing any two numbers or finding the slope. لا, you need to choose two numbers on a straight section. On a straight section. Or on a straight slope or whatever. You cannot find, please, you cannot find the slope by just using y over x or velocity over time وخلاص. لا, you need to say change of the velocity, v2 minus v1, y2 minus y1. That's why you say v minus u over t. So please you must find 2 points on the straight line to find the slope. خلاص, يبقى this is a straight slope. طيب what about the other one? what's happening to the speed? What's happening to the speed? The speed is decreasing. صح. The speed is decreasing. خلاص أنا using your eyes you can see that the speed is decreasing. Initially, for example, the speed was 20 meters per second, also 18, 17, 16. But what's happening to the speed? The speed is decreasing. Using your eyes you can see, you can determine whether the speed is increasing or decreasing. سهلة. طيب what about the slope? What about the slope? The slope هنا is constant برضو. يعني هنا the slope is ايه؟ The slope is constant. يبقى هقول له constant. Acceleration, well, you can say acceleration. يعني constant You can say acceleration. It's okay. يعني خلي بالكوا it is okay to say constant acceleration. But there's a better definition. Okay, there's a better word to use. There's a better key word to use in this question. Instead of saying acceleration, we can say a deceleration. Constant ايه شباب؟ Deceleration. What does deceleration mean? What does deceleration mean? Deceleration means decreasing speed. Deceleration means negative acceleration. Deceleration معناها ايه؟ negative acceleration او negative او decreasing the speed. يبقى this is constant. Why is it constant? Because you have a straight line. Can you find the acceleration? Yes, I can find the acceleration. How can I find the acceleration? Using 2 points برضو. Using 2 points on the graph. يلا, let's find 2 points on the graph. اهو point 1 and point 2 برضو هيبقى عندها ايه؟ y2 and x2 وهنا هيبقى عندها ايه؟ y1 and x1. خلاص y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. The number will be in negative. طيب when I find the slope or when I find that deceleration, should I write it in negative? يعني مثلا it will be negative 3 meters per second squared. Do I have to write it as negative 3? لا. I'm talking about your final answer. Do you have to write it as a negative? لا, you don't have to. You can ignore the negative sign. You can ignore the negative sign. خلاص. يبقى بس احنا we know that this is deceleration and that the speed is decreasing. خلاص I know that the speed is decreasing using my eyes على طول. يبقى you have to say what's happening to the speed and what's happening to the deceleration. طب يا مستر constant. ساعات when I'm reading some questions, when I was reading the notes or when I was reading whatever, there was another word saying uniform. هو is constant the same as uniform? Yes. Constant is the same as as uniform. يبقى if I'm saying constant acceleration, it's the same. يعني you can say constant acceleration or you can say uniform acceleration. You can say constant speed or uniform speed. You can say constant deceleration or a uniform deceleration. خلاص يعني constant is uniform. It's the same word بالنسبة لنا. ماشي؟ طيب. Moving on بقى to non-constant deceleration or non-constant acceleration. We have 4 other graphs. يلا, let's draw the 4 other graphs كده بسرعة. برضو speed time graphs. We have 4 other speed time graphs. يلا بسرعة كده. Speed time graphs. يلا. Very easy إن شاء الله these 4 other graphs. برضو speed time. اوكي عشان محدش يقول لي اصل دي it's a distance time graph. لا, it's a speed time graph. كلهم ايه؟ speed time. طيب بسرعة كده. How can we draw these graphs? هنرسمهم كده. Okay. Okay. كده. Okay. These are the 4 other graphs. These are all non-uniform. صح؟ يعني they are all non-constant. How do I know that they're not constant? Because of the graph. Because the slope isn't constant. Because we have a curve in the graph. I can see, or you can see برضو, that we have 2 of them. The speed is increasing and 2 of them the speed is decreasing. 2 of them the speed is increasing and 2 others the speed is decreasing. طب how can I determine? Using my eyes. خلاص. The first 2 the speed, what's happening to the speed is increasing. يعني هنا first one is speed increases. صح؟ هنا the speed increases. طب يا مستر هنا speed is not increasing. ده هنا speed is decreasing. لا, speed is increasing. How do you know? Or how do I know that the speed is increasing? Initially it was 0. بعد كده it's 10, 15 20 25 whatever. So what's happening to speed? The speed is increasing. صح. The numbers, the values on the y-axis are increasing. يبقى whenever the values on the y-axis keep on increasing, this means that the speed is increasing. يبقى for these two graphs, the speed is increasing. What about the other two graphs? What's happening to speed? What's happening to velocity? The speed is decreasing in these two other graphs. يلا. The speed is decreasing in these two other graphs. يبقى في الأول speed increases. With these two other graphs the speed أو the speed is decreasing. ماشي. بعدين لا مش فاهم. What's the difference? How can I determine whether the speed is increasing with a constant acceleration ولا with an increasing acceleration ولا with a decreasing acceleration؟ يعني how can I differ? أو how do they differ? When the slope is بصوا كده, when the slope is increasing, then finally بصوا كده, finally the graph becomes almost parallel to the y-axis. This is an increasing slope. This is an increasing slope. How do I know? Again, finally, the slope becomes parallel to the y-axis. Parallel to a y-axis. يبقى increasing slope means that the slope becomes parallel to the y-axis. Therefore, slope means acceleration. So when the slope is increasing, the acceleration is increasing. عشان هو it's becoming parallel to the y-axis. عشان it's becoming parallel to the y-axis. طيب, what about the decreasing slope? اهو decreasing slope means this is a decreasing slope. طب how do I know that's a decreasing slope? Finally it's becoming parallel to finally it's becoming parallel to the x-axis. When it's becoming parallel to the x-axis معناها ايه؟ It means that the slope is decreasing. معناها ايه يا شباب؟ the slope is decreasing. طيب, if you have a decreasing slope means acceleration. Slope means acceleration. So the acceleration is decreasing. So the acceleration is decreasing. You know that we have two accelerations. Actually, we have three كمان لو قلنا if we have the constant acceleration as well. We have in this page we have two accelerations. The speed is increasing. Yes. So the car or the object is accelerating. تمام. طب is the acceleration constant ولا لا? No, the acceleration is not constant. Why is the acceleration not constant? Because you have a curve. Because the line is not constant. The slope is not constant. خلاص. طب is the slope increasing ولا decreasing? The slope in the first one is increasing. How do you know that the slope is increasing? Because finally eventually the slope becomes almost parallel to the y-axis. When the slope is becoming parallel to the y-axis, this means that the slope is increasing. طب in the second one, the slope is it's curving towards the x-axis. صح? It's curving towards the x-axis. طب when it curves towards the x-axis يعني the slope is decreasing. Slope is ايه؟ decreasing. يبقى the speed is still increasing بس with a decreasing acceleration. The speed is increasing with a decreasing acceleration. ماشي. طب what about these two other graphs? خلاص, the speed is decreasing. How do I know? Using your eyes. The speed هنا it had a larger value. Eventually the value of the speed or the velocity is decreasing. طب أنا عندي question. I have a question. Is the first graph يعني this one هنا speed is decreasing. Is it decreasing? Or is the slope? This is a totally different question. Is the slope increasing ولا decreasing? Is the slope increasing ولا decreasing? طب أنت you just said I just said that the slope increases or decreases based on whether it will become parallel to the y-axis or to the x-axis. صح? Whether finally it becomes parallel to the y-axis ولا لا. طب هنا finally it's almost becoming parallel to the y-axis. It's almost becoming parallel to the y-axis. يبقى هنا ايه? It's the same. It's the same point, it's the same idea that the slope is increasing. slope is increasing يعني ال acceleration is increasing. ايه ده؟ لا، هنا it's not acceleration بقى، صح؟ هنا it's not ايه acceleration، هنا it's called ايه؟ it's called a deceleration. it's called ايه يا شباب؟ deceleration. So you can say that the deceleration that the deceleration increases. that the deceleration ايه يا شباب؟ ها increases. طب ازاي؟ او what do you mean by decreasing or increasing deceleration? What do I mean by increasing deceleration? It means that the speed is decreasing, but each time the value, okay, by which it decreases increases. ايه؟ انا لخبطت، انا يا مستر انا متلخبط، ايه اللي انت بتقوله ده؟ Let me give you some numbers. For an increasing deceleration، بصوا كده. For an increasing deceleration, let me give you some numbers. Initially, the speed was, let's say, 100 meters per second. خلاص. Initially, the speed was 100 meters per second. صح؟ طيب, after a second, after 1 second, the speed was 90 meters per second. ماشي. طيب, after another second, the speed was 75 meters per second. ماشي. طيب, after 1 second, the speed was 55 meters per second. طب after 1 second, the speed was 25 meters per second. ايه ده؟ Can you check out the numbers? Can you check out the difference between the numbers? Okay. Initially, it decreased by 10. صح؟ عملنا minus 10. طب وبعدين minus 15. And then minus 20. And then minus 30. So what's happening to the difference between them? The difference is increasing. The difference is increasing. Therefore, the deceleration is increasing. هنسميها ايه؟ Increasing deceleration. أو deceleration increases. Why? Because the difference between them keeps on increasing. The rate by which I'm slowing down is increasing. The rate at which you're slowing down is increasing. Why? Because خلاص هنا I'm applying more brakes بقى, whatever is happening to the object, but there is an increasing acceleration. It means that I'm increasing the rate at which my speed is decreasing. طيب, this is نسميها increasing deceleration. What about the last graph? What about this graph? ايه اللي بيحصل? What's happening? Finally, it's becoming almost parallel to the x-axis زي دي صح. It's becoming parallel to the x-axis, meaning that the slope is decreasing. Meaning that the slope is ايه شباب؟ The slope is decreasing. طب يعني ايه slope is decreasing؟ يعني ال acceleration is also decreasing. يعني ال acceleration برضه is ايه؟ is decreasing. أو in this case احنا will not مش هنسميها بقى acceleration. This is called a deceleration. This will be a deceleration يا شباب. يبقى deceleration is decreasing. Deceleration decreases. Deceleration decreases. Now, can you give me some numbers for the decreasing deceleration? حاضر. Okay. If we want to talk about some numbers for the decreasing deceleration. Initially, the speed was مثلا 100 meters per second. 100 meters per second. طيب, after 1 second, the speed was 60 meters per second. طب after another second, the speed was let's say 40 meters per second. طب after 1 second, the speed was نخليها كام 30 meters per second. Okay. طب after 1 second, it's 25 meters per second. طب let's check out the differences. Can you find the differences? Yes. Initially the difference was minus 40. طب وبعدين minus 20. minus 10. وهنا minus minus 5. So the difference is decreasing. The difference is decreasing. This is what we call a decreasing deceleration. Decreasing deceleration. طيب, على فكرة, the most commonly used one is the decreasing acceleration. Okay, this is the most commonly used acceleration or speed time graph. Why? Because this is the acceleration of a free falling object in air. Okay, with air resistance and forces. واحنا إن شاء الله we'll be talking about this more extensively next session. But this is the most commonly used graph. اللي هو decreasing acceleration. Okay, because of the free falling objects. احنا basically we take this session or we take this lesson talking about the graphs والكلام ده. Why? To be able to define الgraphs, free falling motion graphs. على فكرة يعني most of the graphs are talking about the free falling motion free falling graphs. طيب سهل الكلام، سهل جدا ان شاء الله يعني. I hope ان it's easy. I hope ان ايه لحد دلوقتي احنا it should be a bit easy. Let me talk about some special cases for the acceleration. Let me talk about some special cases. Okay, the special cases are if you have a non-uniform acceleration. It's non-uniform acceleration. For example, we would have speed time graph. For example, this is a speed time graph. This is speed meters per second. وهنا time in seconds. And he's asking you to find بصوا كده. He's asking you to find the acceleration at 3 seconds. يعني find the acceleration at 3 seconds. How can I find the acceleration at 3 seconds? Allah, طب خلاص التايم هنا 3 and I will find that the speed was 20. خلاص يبقى 20 over 3 صح؟ لا. You cannot do that. We need to find ايه يا شباب؟ You must find 2 points. You need to find the slope. You need to find the slope. طيب can you find the slope of a curve? لا. What should you do? You have to draw a tangent line. You have to draw a tangent line. Please, you must draw a tangent line. طيب, let's draw a tangent line. Okay, this could be a tangent line كده. Okay, this is the tangent line that I've drawn. طيب, this tangent line, for example, it ended at, let's give easy number. مثلا هنا ايه 8. Okay, خلاص it ended at 8. طيب can I find the slope دلوقتي? Yes, I can find the slope. How can I find the slope? It would be 20 minus 8 over 3 minus 0. خلاص, because I have 2 points on the tangent line, you must draw the tangent line to find the slope, to find the acceleration, to find whatever. Okay, acceleration or deceleration, you must draw a tangent line for this graph. Okay, for a non-uniform acceleration or non-uniform deceleration. So the slope دلوقتي 20 minus 8 over 3, which is 12 over 3, يعني 4 meters per second squared. This is the slope that you are required to find for this question. Okay, ماشي. تمام, حلو كده, حلو. Last but not least, we have to talk about the area under the graph. Okay, معلش بقى, area under the graph, it's actually a very crucial part of this session. يعني area under the graph. طيب, ايه هو الarea under the graph? Area under the graph, we use it to find the distance. We use it امتى يا شباب? To find the distance. To find the distance in a speed time graph. In a speed time graph. يبقى what is the area under the graph? It is used to find the distance in a speed time graph. يعني he will give me a speed time graph. Tell me find the distance. So how can I find the distance? أول حاجة you have to write down area under the graph. طيب, ماشي, تعالوا let's draw a graph كده. Okay, let's draw a graph كده يا شباب. This is a very simple speed time graph. Speed meters per second, when at time in seconds, وبعدين the graph is drawn something like this. صح? Well, look, we'll find the distance traveled after. Okay, this is a very simple graph طبعا. Okay, find the distance traveled after 10 seconds, وهنا the speed was 6. Find the distance. خلاص يا مستر, distance equals speed times time. صح? غلط. No, it's wrong. Okay, you can never say that the distance is speed times time for this graph. When do we use distance equals speed times time? That's only if you have a constant speed. وطبعا it's very obvious that the speed is not constant for this question. The speed is not constant for this question. طب how can I find the speed أو how can I find the distance؟ هنقول له area under the graph. You have to write down area under the graph. أهو area under the graph. طيب what's the area of this graph? This is a this is a triangle صح. This is a triangle. يلا يبقى half times base times height, which is half times 10 times 6 يعني 30 meters. Meters بس, that's it, meters بس. Why? Because you're finding the distance. Because you're finding the distance. طيب another question ممكن يجي يقول لي find the area of a trapezium. خلاص يعني what are the different areas that we need to find trapezium أو triangle أو circle أو خلاص لا we don't have circles بس يعني anyway what's a more difficult question? What is a more difficult question? If you have a graph something like this, okay, it's a rather rare question بس يعني you could have one of these questions in your final test. This is speed time graph. Oh, meters per second with time بالseconds. ويجي يقول لي يا شباب I need to find the distance traveled. Okay, distance traveled after 20 seconds. وهنا the speed was let's say برضو 20 ماشي 20 and 20. Can I find the distance traveled؟ خلاص يعني speed times time. لا يا جماعة it's not, definitely it's not speed times time. طب it's area under the graph. Oh, it is area under the graph. Can you find the area under the graph? Yes, I can. بس ايه ده? This is not a regular shape. طب is this a circle؟ لا, it's not a circle. It's not a quarter of a circle. Okay, this is not a quarter of a circle. This is a graph. خلاص يعني what should we do? We should estimate. For this question you need to you need to estimate. أو you can first يعني kind of divide the graph into parts أو into several areas which you can find the areas of الأول. يعني if I can draw a line كده, can I find the area of this triangle? I think so. Yes. Okay. So the initial area, area 1, is half times base times height. صح؟ صح. قولوا صح. Half times 20 times 10, which is 200 meters. سهلة. Okay. Easy. What about the second part? We still have this area. You still have this area. To find this area, you need to estimate. To find this area, you need to estimate. يلا. How can I estimate يا شباب؟ estimate. It's an estimate. It's an estimate. This is not any estimate. يعني this area is definitely not equal to the area 1. صح؟ يعني this green area, it's not equal to A1. طيب is it 50%? لا, I think it's less than 50%. طب is it 40%? It could be 40%. Is it 30%? Maybe 30%. Is it 25%? Maybe. طب is it 10%? لا, definitely it's not 10%. It's not 5%. It's not a very small percentage, and it's not a very huge percentage as well. Okay, it's something in the middle. Maybe this could be 30%, 40%. خلاص أنا مثلا I would say that it's 30% of area 1. Let's say it's 30% of area 1. But what does 30% of area 1 mean? 30 over 100 times area 1, which was 200. يبقى 30 times هيطلع كام؟ هيطلع 60 meters. To be 60 meters. So the estimate is 60 meters. So the total area is almost, or the total distance, the total distance is almost كام؟ أقول له كده total distance is almost. It's an estimate. There's a range. There's a huge range كمان. Okay, the total distance is almost تقريبا 260 meters. خلاص يبقى this is by estimating. Okay, by estimating. طيب let's solve some questions. تعالوا نحل شوية questions كده. معلش I know in explanation took a bit too long, بس it was very important for us to explain these these questions again. Okay, تعالوا let's move on to motion, and let's start from page كام بقى. Let's start from the end. Okay, let's start from لا مش forces. motion. يلا تعالوا نبتدي بالmotion. motion لسه شوية. يلا motion page 70. يلا let's start with page 70. Again, I don't know if we've solved this question before, but let's solve it again. Okay, يلا page هنا page 70 يا شباب. page 70. طيب يلا بينا. calculate the acceleration of the car. هو بس كده بس كده. You have a time, you have the speed, you have an initial speed, صح؟ You have the final speed. يلا acceleration equals يلا v minus u over t، صح؟ v minus u اللي هو 13 minus u ايه ده هو what is u يا جماعة؟ rest from rest يعني u equals 0. 13 minus 0 over t which is 3.2 seconds. يبقى 13 over 3.2 هيديني كام؟ 13 divided by 3.2 is 4.0625. طبعا do not write all of these numbers. 4.06 بس 4.06 and that's it. That's more than enough. 4.06 meters per second. Okay, أو 4.1 يعني 4.1 برضو it is an it's the right answer. define acceleration. يلا عايزين define acceleration. What is acceleration يا جماعة? It is the rate of change of velocity. Rate of change of velocity. يلا. Rate of change of a velocity. سهلة سهلة. طيب يلا بقى let's draw. The car travels at 13 meters per second from time 3.2 to time كام? To time 12 seconds. Plot the speed time graph of the car from 0 to 12. عايزين نplot the graph from 0 to 12. يلا عايزين نplot وبعد كده he will tell you to find the distance. بس الأول كده find the we need to plot. Can you plot? Yes, I can plot. Initially it was at 0. Okay, from 0 it reached a speed of 13 meters per second in what? 13 meters per second in 3.2 seconds. صح? That's what he said. In 3.2 seconds he reached a speed of 13 meters per second. طب يلا using a graph using a graph. Where is 3.2? فين 3.2? هنا this is 2.4 2.8 وهنا this is 3.2. دي 3.8 3.2 صح؟ بعدين we need to find 13 meters per second. نطلع فوق كده نلاقي 13 meters per second. 13 اهي. Okay, this is 13 meters per second. Okay, يبقى we need to draw a straight line from this point, from the origin to this point. You need to draw a straight line using the ruler please from the origin to this point. طبعا using a ruler. طبعا اللي انا بعمله ده عك يعني بس انتوا فاهمين. Okay, you do yeah. using the ruler. يبقى this is the first mark. طب second mark بيقول ايه? He was moving at a constant speed صح؟ The car travels at 13 meters per second from T2 to 12 meters to 12 seconds. يبقى until this point اهو it was moving at a constant speed. خلاص يبقى احنا we draw a horizontal line. Okay, the horizontal line should be in the center or in the middle كده. Should be in the middle. Okay. Yeah, this is the speed. Oh, this is the graph that you will draw. Do not continue the graph. Okay, please, yeah. Do not continue the graph to the end. He said until 12 seconds. خلاص, stop at 12. Do not continue the graph. Okay, do not continue the graph to the end. ماشي. ماشي. حلو. بعدين. I guess it's easy. Determine the distance traveled by the car between 0 and 3.2. Determine the distance traveled by the car between 0 and 3.2. يعني he needs the first 3.2 seconds اللي هو until this point. Till this point we need to find the area. Can I find the area? خلاص, it's area under the graph. يلا. Write down area under the graph. Area under the graph. This is a graph of a triangle. Area under the graph area of the graph هنا half times base times height يعني half times 3.2 times the height which is 13 هيطلع كام times 13 20.8 meters 20.8 meters او you can write it down as 21 meters صح الاثنين بالنسبة لي صح يبقى 20.8 meters او 21 meters both are correct ان شاء الله سهل الكلام any questions طيب يلا moving on to previous page يلا أو يعني this 68 and 69 are the same question. Describe يلا يا جماعة describe how the acceleration of the rocket changes between time 10 and 30. Okay, between time 10 and 30. What's happening to the acceleration? بصوا كده between 10 and 30. What's happening to acceleration? Can you say
increase.
increasing acceleration بالظبط increasing acceleration برافو عليكم it increases why because the slope is moving towards the y-axis it's moving towards the y-axis طيب حاضر جميل طيب what about the next one by drawing a tangent he's helping us in this question he is helping you usually okay he could say just find the acceleration وخلاص but in this question he is helping you so we need to determine the acceleration of the rocket at time كام 25 seconds at time 25 seconds طيب let's zoom in بقى شوية حلوين let's zoom in at time 25 seconds يعني at this point هنا at this point صح هنا this is 25 seconds وهنا the speed will be معلش عشان ايه I'm going this is 1375 okay the speed هنا is كام 1375 okay this is the speed at this point يعني at this point the speed is 1375 طيب احنا we need to draw a tangent to draw this tangent you need to be very very accurate الصراحة this is one of the most challenging questions that require you to draw a tangent يعني one of the most challenging questions ليه because the line is almost خلي بالكوا the line is almost straight the line is almost the slope is almost constant at this point the slope is almost constant فانتوا you need to draw a very يعني slight tangent كده at this point مثلا if I draw a tangent it will almost بص كده يعني هحاول ارسمها better تعال نرسم كده اللاين تقريبا if you draw the line تقريبا it will reach and I need a ruler okay تقريبا يعني اللاين will go this way okay تقريبا it will reach this point okay أو the square below it يعني تقريبا it will reach the square below it if you draw a very very precise line okay it will almost reach the square below it هنا كده حلو if you draw the tangent at this point طيب what is the value of the speed at this point the value of the speed at this point is انا برضو ايه ابتديت اتحول بقى شكلي ايه 2 this is 1600 this is almost 1700 okay the speed هنا is almost كام 1700 طيب it's almost 1700 طيب can you find the speed يعني if you use this point ماشي if you use the point above it or the square above it okay we can find the acceleration 1700 minus 1375 over the time which is 5 هنا the acceleration will be around 75 طيب if it was at the point above it يعني if the speed or if you drew the tangent and it reached the point above it هنا مثلا it reached this point عشان كده بقول لكم it's the line is almost بجد the line is almost ايه the line is almost constant if the line reached this point يعني هنا it's 1750 can I find the slope yes 1750 minus تعالوا بس ايه let's write it down okay let's write it down هنا هيبقى كام 1750 1750 minus 1375 over the time difference, which is 30 minus 25. Okay, using the calculator, the acceleration would be around 75 meters per second squared. Okay, around يعني 75 meters per second squared. Again, okay, بصوا كده, it's a very challenging tangent if you want to draw it. It will be a very challenging tangent to draw. بس يعني it will be somewhere or something like this graph. Okay? ماشي. كده صح ان شاء الله. يلا بينا. Okay, if the final answer is 80, that would be correct برضه. بقول لكم tangent is يعني it's an estimate برضه. Tangent is always an estimate. Okay, بس you need to draw يعني an accurate tangent أو a precise tangent. يعني it doesn't need to be 100%, بس يعني close. Could be close. There is a range. When you have a tangent, there's always a range. Determine the distance traveled by the rocket between time 0 and time 10. This is easy, but I guess this is very easy. Between time 0 and time 10, I need to find the distance traveled. Between 0 and 10, and I need to find the area under the graph. صح? Well, this is a straight line, فخلاص you can find the area under the graph. هنا it reached 400. يبقى area under the graph half times base times height. صح? Half times base times height, which is half times 10 times 400 مش 4000, which will be 200 meters. صح كده؟ 200 meters. يلا. ولا 2000 meters ولا ايه؟
2000.
2000 ايوه. 2000 meters. اوكي؟ ادي مشكلة الكويك ماث. 2000 meters. يلا. يلا بينا. حلو الكويستشن ده. This is a nice question. This is a really nice question الصراحة. Okay, كله معايا؟ We have the trolley which is moving downwards. It's moving downwards. It has a piece of paper attached to it. The tape passes through a machine which makes a dot on the tape every 0.02 seconds. And it's making a dot as well. It's moving every 0.02 seconds. And this is a section of the tape. State how the dots on the tape show that the trolley was moving with a constant speed. Yani as it was moving, it kept on adding dots. How do you know that the speed is constant from these dots? Okay, same. Bravo عليكم. Yes, bravo عليكم. Yes, it is the same because we have distances between these dots. Distances between the dots are the same. But if you have the same distances between the dots, then you have the same speed. It's a constant speed. يبقى how do I know that it is a constant speed? يبقى same distance between the dots. Same distance between the dots. ماشي. حلو سهل. اوكي ماشي. When the trolley reaches point P, the ramp is tilted so that the angle is greater. The angle X is greater. يعني دلوقتي how will it look like? It will be something like this. That it's tilted and angle X that is increased. Angle X is greater. What happens? Describe and explain the change in motion of the trolley. Describe and explain. What will happen? ايه اللي هيحصل? Will it increase the acceleration ولا يعني ايه اللي هيحصل؟ Okay. Well, it accelerates. ماشي صح. Yes, you are correct. It does accelerate. Okay. The speed increases. Yes, the speed increases. طيب why does the speed increases؟ يعني why does it accelerate؟ ليه؟ Because there's more force. ايه ده؟ does this احنا we didn't talk about forces yet. I know we didn't talk about the forces yet. But for this question, why does it increase? Why does the speed increase? يعني whenever بقى احنا later on next session إن شاء الله when we talk about forces, how does an object accelerate How does the object increase the speed? Because there has to be some sort of resultant force on the object. Okay, there has to be some sort of resultant force on the object. يبقى what's happening to the speed of this trolley? What happens? The speed increases صح أو it's accelerating. It accelerates. Speed is increasing أو إيه أو it accelerates. طيب when the speed is increasing أو it accelerates, why? Why? Because there is a resultant force. There is a resultant force on the object or on the trolley or whatever. سهل الكلام. Easy. طيب يلا, another trolley is released from the top of the ramp. We have the speed time graph. Calculate the distance in the first بصوا in the first 0.5 seconds. In the first 0.5 seconds. يبقى دلوقتي I'm going to find the area under the graph. صح. يلا. Find the area under the graph, which is a triangle. Half times base times height. صح. طيب يبقى half times 1 times 1.5. لا. That's wrong. Why is it wrong? يا ده يا مستر هو الاريا 1.5. لا. And I said in the first what? In the first 0.5 seconds. In the 0.5 seconds. يبقى انتوا you need only this part. You only need this part. This is the base 0.5 and this is the height, which is I guess 0.75 صح؟ and I can't see مش عارف ليه. يبقى half times يلا half times 0.5 times 0.75, which is around 0.19 meters. Okay, 0.19 meters. يبقى half times 0.5 times 0.75 will give you a distance of 0.19 meters. Please يا شباب, please read the questions carefully. He needs the distance traveled in the first 0.5 seconds بس. Only in the first 0.5 seconds, not for the whole graph ولا not for the whole time travel. لا, أنا only need إيه? Only need the first 0.5 seconds بس. Easy? طيب. Let's take another question. يلا. Question page 65. يلا page 65. يلا يا شباب احنا we're almost done. This is the last question خلاص. This is the last question. On figure 1.1, mark a point P where the acceleration of the car is 0. يلا معلش بقى. Last question. Mark a point P in which the acceleration is 0. ايه ده يا مستر؟ It's accelerating. Initially كان عندي constant acceleration and then the acceleration was increasing. No, you're wrong. You are wrong. ليه؟ عشان this is a distance time graph. This ايه؟ This is a distance time graph. يعني ايه distance time graph؟ يعني the slope is speed. It's not acceleration. Slope is speed. So initially in the first مثلا 30 seconds تقريبا first 30 seconds you had a constant slope صح؟ بس constant slope هنا means ايه؟ هنا constant slope means that you have a constant speed. Constant speed يعني acceleration zero. Constant speed يعني acceleration zero. طيب يعني مثلا at this point if I draw هنا P, this is point P, is this right؟ صح. طب if I حطيت point P هنا okay. طب point P okay. At any point along this line up to 30 تقريبا okay, almost up to 30, you can put point P at which the acceleration is 0 or at which the speed is constant. يلا determine the speed of the car at time 15. يلا بسرعة كده determine the speed of the car at time 15. How can I find the speed? I need to find the slope at time 15 هنا. Okay, if you draw a line. Okay, the slope is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. You can take بصوا كده you can take the slope to be you can take the initial point to be 0 and 0. You can take y2 x1 and y1 to be 0 and 0. طيب what about x2 and y2? We can take مثلا for example ما هنا it would be 75 بالظبط. هنا it will be 75 and 15. Okay, so 75 over 15 which is يلا 75 over 15 which is 5 meters per second, which is 5 meters per second. Okay. ماشي. The average speed of the car between time 30 and time 45. What is the average speed? When he says average speed يعني total distance over total time. خلاص. Total distance over total time. يلا. What is the total distance and what is the total time? Between 30 and 45. Between مش أي حاجة. Only between 30 and 45. طيب let's draw 45 كده اللي هو إيه؟ عند هنا. Between 30 and 45. What is the total distance traveled? هنا at 30 it was 150 and at 45 it was 300 صح؟ 30 هنا كان 150 and صح كده؟ طيب يبقى total distance will be the difference between them يعني 300 minus 150 and the total time was 45 minus 30 صح؟ which is 10 meters per second صح؟ 10 meters per second. طيب يلا بينا. Last question خلاص, that's it. At time 45 the car starts to decelerate. At time 55 and at a distance of 400 meters from the starting point the car stops. The car ايه؟ stops. 45 the car will begin to decelerate at time 55 and at a distance of 400 meters. At a distance of 400 meters يعني deceleration in this graph يعني deceleration in this graph you have to draw a line كده صح. This is deceleration in the distance time graph. You have to draw a line curving towards the x-axis. You have to draw a line curving towards the x-axis. It should be by the end it should be the slope should be 0 ليه؟ عشان هو خلاص it stops. Okay, it remains stationary for 5 seconds. Okay, يعني at time 55 okay at time 45 the car begins to decelerate بالظبط at time 55 at a distance of 400 it stops يعني at 55 it should stop at 55 and at 400 هنا at this point at this point it should be 0 at this point هنرسم كده at this point هنرسم ايه 0 خلاص it stopped. طيب what about هنا خلاص احنا we will draw a slope okay a decreasing slope this way ما بين هنا وهنا خلاص يعني something like this. طيب يلا بينا خلاص that's it for this question. سهل الكلام. I hope ان هو it is easy. ماشي تمام كده قوي.